Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvatitam Gaganasadarsham Tattvamasya Laksham Ekam Nityam Vimalam Achalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigunarahitam Sadgurum Dham Namah. So, after going down to the Supreme Teacher, who is none other than the Supreme Brahman himself, all other teachers are subsidiary. Let's start today's session. The subject given to me is Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Right, quite a subject which cannot be done in 3 days. But so we can't go sloka by sloka, then it will take 3 months to do the Yoga Sutras. But we will try and make it as concise as possible and try to do what we can in 3 days. Okay. Now, a couple of instructions to our friends who organize the affair. That from tomorrow's session, I don't want to have a sofa like this, because according to yoga, it's not good to sit on soft seats for the spine. Much of our spinal problems, not me, are caused because of sitting on very soft, sinking in. There is no support for the back. So, if you put a small bench or a table, broad enough so that I don't fall off at the back, and a thin mattress on top, I'm very happy with that. Then I can sit nice. See, if I sit like this, I'm going back. I don't want to look like a Maharaja. So, so here we are. Okay. Now the concept of yoga. You can hear me, right? Even if I don't raise my voice, because I have a tendency to become little soft when I go deep, we can increase the volume at that time. Think so? Can be done. Okay. So, the earliest image of a yogi that we are accustomed to in India is that of Shiva, sitting cross-legged, right, with a snake on his neck and one on the head and all kinds of things, and a crescent moon and a trishul and all that. This is the first image we have. Before that, we have the simple shivling, just a black stone or a white stone with a yoni at the bottom, shivling. And so, Shiva represents Mahayogi, is also called Mahayogi, Maheshwara. So the origins of the practice of yoga run back quite into ancient times. In fact, I think they found a small sculpture in Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, of a yogic posture, people sitting. So it's pretty old, the whole concept. Of course, it has been taken and changed into various other forms of yoga, including yoga where you practice inside a hot room and sweat to hell. The new yoga, Vikram, I don't know what it's called. So, all kinds of things have come out of the original yoga. What you must remember is that I'm going to deal with the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, but let's look at yoga as a whole. We know that the Bhagavad Gita is one of the oldest texts available to us on the teachings of Vedanta, Bhakti and so on. I want to remind you that each chapter of the Gita is called an yoga. Why I'm saying this? Because yoga is not confined to yoga asanas only. Hey, this man has grown up. And it is not confined to just standing on your head. It is good. Practice of regular yoga is good. I have my practitioners of regular yoga. That's good for you, health and so on and so on. But if you find that every chapter of the Gita is titled by Vyasa as yoga, it means yoga's concept is not just confined to the yoga of standing on your head. I've presided over many international yoga meets and so on, but I'm still telling you, I say that everywhere. This time in Switzerland, we have an international yoga meet. I said, look, yoga is not just the asanas and the posture, which of course are important in their own way. It's much more wider concept. It's something that can be practiced by anybody, even if they are not accustomed to practicing asanas. If you go to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, only mention in the Yoga Sutras, which is considered to be the ultimate text on yoga, only one sentence, which is Sthira Sukham Asanam. That's all. No other mention of yoga or postures anywhere. Of course, Yoga Sutras Patanjali is one side. All the other yogic texts that we have from the Natha Sampradaya, like Hatha Yoga Pradipika, Jaranda Samhita, they all mention yogasanas. I agree with that, but not in the Yoga Sutras. I am saying this because yoga is much more deeper than just the practice of postures. That's what I am trying to say. I am not saying don't practice yoga. You get what I am trying to say? Okay. Now, remember that the first chapter of the Gita is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. There is no pranayam, there is no yoga, there is no physical practice, nothing there. Yoga, it's called yoga. What's it? Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Why? Because all spiritual inquiry, what I'm trying to say is yoga has more to do with spiritual inquiry than physical well-being. But if you are not physically fit, your mind cannot be fit, and therefore you cannot inquire. That's a different story. So, everywhere you will find, throughout the world, most people, I won't say most people, very few really have spiritual inquiries. I get 200 on odd emails every day. There may be half a spiritual inquiry somewhere. Otherwise, Babaji, can I have a baby now? It is 10 years we are married, and so on. Nobody is seriously interested in any spiritual, or may I have a promotion quickly? Can you pray for me? Now, what has happened is spiritual teachers have become astrologers and all kinds of things. When I should predict your marriage, this is my job. So anyway, why is the first chapter of the Gita called Arjuna Vishada Yoga? Because most people go into the search for the spiritual only when they are in trouble. You are very happy, everything is going fine, and then you say, no, this is not enough. Suddenly the shares fall, and you say, no, the share can fall at any time, right? It's a share, so it can go up or it can come down. Now, then you say, no, I have to find something permanent which does not go down. Or I have pain and I want to get free of it. I say, is there some way out? Now that becomes a spiritual search, right? So, Arjuna is in Vishada, which means in pain, in sorrow, in confusion. And therefore he says, please help me out. I am in this situation. There starts the spiritual search. The great founder of the Sikh religion, Guru Nanak, said, Dukh mein sumiran sab kare, sukh mein kare na koi. When you are unhappy, all do smaran. Sumiran is Punjabi for smaran. Sukh, who is bothered? You light an agarbatti, say thank you and carry on with your life. So the search, this is why the first chapter is called Arjuna Vishada Yoga. So what is yoga? Searching for the truth. Trying to find out, is there something in us which is not affected by the shares going up or down? Is there some element in us which is not dependent on 50% tariffs which have been put on in Is there something like that? Is there something intrinsic in us which is naturally occurring in us, which is free of all these things, which is blissful, which is never ending. Is there an element, the finding out of this is yoga. How to figure, now there must be different ways of doing it. It can't be one way. Because the argument is very simple. If truth is infinite, if those who have touched it have said it is infinite, if truth is infinite, there must be infinite ways of coming there. Therefore, in all the 18 chapters of the Gita, different ways have been prescribed of how to arrive. So you have Sankhya Yoga, Karma Yoga, Bhakti Yoga, and so on. Jnana Yoga, Abhyasa Yoga, 6th chapter on yoga, and so on. So, I want you to be aware of this background first before we begin. Now, why the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali? In ancient India, we have 6 darshanas called Shad Darshana. 6 is Shad Darshana. Darshana is usually translated as a philosophy of living, a philosophy, and so on. Any other English translation for darshana?
The seeing, the real seeing, darshan.
No, normal English translation for darshana. Not even sect. They're not even sects actually. Path. You know, the problem with Sanskrit, it is such a precise language that you need many English words to set it up. Like all other Indian languages, especially Sanskrit because it's quite old. So, and the grammar of Sanskrit is so serious. The nearest grammar is German grammar, which is very difficult to understand first. So, darshana is, the actual word in Sanskrit, darshana, means face to face. Darshan. Go to the temple, I want to have darshan. I want to have darshan of a yogi. Or I want to, so you know what darshan means. Face to face, actual. Not theory, but actual. Darshan. I've seen in Nepal people greet each other, darshan. Means, I saw you now. Basically, it's used for darshan or the coming face to face with the divine. This is the word. Now, in India, I said there are 6 darshanas. Mimamsa, Purva Mimamsa, Vedanta, Sankhya, and so on and so forth. Out of that, the last darshana is Yoga Darshana. So, after going through, you need not go through all that because different people specialize in different darshanas. Unless you are Adi Shankara who went through all the darshanas. But this is not possible for a normal human being. You cannot do that. So, yoga is one of the darshanas. So, what would yoga's aim be? To come face to face with the truth through yogic ways. Right? Right. Now, who is the founder of Yoga Darshana? Patanjali. Not the guy who's making medicines, please. Patanjali. The people might say, Patanjali, oh, I just got the toothpaste from them. The great yogi Patanjali is the founder of the Yoga Darshana. Now, here is something you have to note, because this is a workshop on Yoga Sutras, so I have to go clear. 50 to 60% of the terms or terminology or philosophy of yoga is derived from Sankhya. Now, Sankhya is a very ancient darshana, founded by the great Muni Kapila. And Kapila is so important that in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, in the Bhagavad Gita, when Lord Krishna is talking about his glories, saying about mountains, I am the Meru Among the Achalas, I am the Himachala. Among the Vedas, I am the Samaveda. When he comes to Munis or the great Rishis, he says, among the Munis, I am Kapila. You see how important Sankhya is. About 70% of the terminology in the Yoga Sutras is derived from Sankhya, including the concept of Ishvara and Prakriti and Purusha and so on. They all derived from that. The terms themselves, Purusha is a term used in the Yoga Sutras. It's derived from Sankhya. Now, therefore, you will come across many different ideas from Sankhya, modified. We will see where the modification comes in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. Right. Now, therefore, it's important to read the Yoga Sutras with the right concept. When we describe each term, we will come into Purusha, Ishvara, and all these concepts, one by one, little by little. Now, the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali are very small. They are not very huge. Very few number of slokas. And they are called sutras. Now, please note this. When you say sutra, it means an aphorism. An aphorism cannot be understood unless somebody comments on it, because it is so tightly edited. You cannot substitute any single word into a sutra. It's already there and well edited. So when you want to study a very edited text, you need to open it up. So there are several commentaries on the Yoga Sutras, including Vyasa's commentary. We don't know which Vyasa, because Vyasa simply means a commentator, right? So there are many commentaries on the Yoga Sutras. Now, there is also a commentary by M. I commented on the Yoga Sutras sloka by sloka, aphorism by aphorism, sutra by sutra, simply because, I titled it a little controversial. My translation says, Yoga also for the godless. Now, please understand, I didn't say yoga for the godless. I said yoga also for the godless, because there are, Sankhya, for instance, does not believe in a creator God. Kapila has no mention of a creator God, like the Buddha. There is no creator. Everything happens through a coming together of Purusha and Prakriti, through chemical changes. The innate intelligence is Purusha. There is no separate person sitting, making people with screwdrivers, then putting him down on earth and then kicking him also sometimes. There is no such concept in Sankhya. So Patanjali has borrowed it in his Yoga Sutras. All this we will go into slowly. So I said yoga also for the godless, because there are many people who are interested in yoga who do not want to practice yoga because they say, if I practice yoga, then I have to say Ganeshaya Namah. I said, but you still can practice yoga. Then you can decide for yourself afterwards whether you want to have your God or you don't want. Pure practice of yoga asanas, what do you want? Nothing. It just is a practice, right? Then, when your mind becomes calm and clear and quiet, when your intelligence becomes subtle, then you can decide for yourself about that. Otherwise, it's simply a belief system. Now, there are two belief systems. God exists. There's another belief that God does not exist. Yeah. So, like the Buddha never discussed this matter. Anybody asked him, is there a creator God? He said, who created him? So, not to get into that controversy, I said also for godless. So, if you fully believe in God, please practice yoga. Practice yoga, what Patanjali is talking about. If you are not, then also you can. Because, let's go to the Upanishad. The most ancient teachings. Swamini sitting here, her guru was one of the greatest proponents of Vedanta philosophy. Some Dayananda Saraswati's talks on the Upanishads are excellent. I mean, they're very. I think he was also quite cerebral, sharp in his mind. So, what I'm trying to say is, what did I say? My mind went off to the Swami Dayananda Saraswati. Upanishad. Now, the Upanishad, many people think, is wisdom, only intellectual study and try. Not true. The Upanishad declares that one who is most intelligent, very soon discovers the limitations of his intellect. Because what the Upanishad is talking about is something which is beyond even the understanding of our ordinary mind. So when the Upanishad says, yan manasa na manyute, that which even the mind cannot understand, they are talking about an untrained, unyogic mind. So, to get the mind ready for understanding, the intuitionary understanding of the Supreme Brahman, if you want to call it that, then you require to change your mind and make it ready for it. The ordinary mind cannot understand this concept because it is beyond the understanding of the senses. If something can be understood by the senses, it would be very easy. Because I can say, oh, this is hard or soft, smells good, but what the senses cannot touch, how do I understand? You have to go beyond the senses, which means beyond the mind that is built up by the senses, all concepts. One has to go beyond, and yoga is the tool to do that. Okay, why do I say that? Because yoga says, the philosophy of yoga, the teaching of yoga says that the ordinary mind, which is always caught up in tensions, caught up ups and downs, achievements and non-achievements, success and failure, cannot find the truth. The mind has to settle down. And yoga is the tool to make the mind settle. Which is why, at the end of every chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, for instance, end of every chapter, there is a sentence, I think you may know it. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita. So this is the Bhagavad Gita, simple to understand. Iti Srimad Bhagavad Gita. Upanishads, it is the teaching of the Upanishads, the supreme teaching of the Upanishad. And what does Upanishad teach? Brahma Vidyayam, the knowledge of the Supreme Brahman. Right? And Yoga Shastra. If Yoga Shastra or a technique for cleaning up the mind and making it fit to understand, go beyond its ordinary thought, is not done, then that Brahma Vidya cannot be understood. So, Vyasa has beautifully put in the middle Yoga Shastra, then Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade, dialogue between Sri Krishna and Arjuna. So, this is the Yoga Shastra. Now we come to Patanjali. Nobody can actually figure out his date. It's controversial. Some dates are too late and some are too early. But it looks like, considering the fact that not too long ago they discovered a commentary on the Yoga Sutras by Shankaracharya, Adi Shankara. Now it's available with the Indian publisher, famous, who does all Indian. Huh? No. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You go and look in the. Nowadays we have a big God, like Google God. Huh? No Gita Press. Gita Press is trying to do in Hindi now. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Look at Google God. Chat GPT knows except the Brahman. So, yeah, okay. So the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. So why did I go away from there? Shankara. Okay. So sometimes it happens, when you are in a state of what is described by Patanjali as Kaivalya or which comes through Samadhi. Sometimes the mind gets lost and you're going somewhere and it is gone and then you have to bring it back. Because the intention is to be blank. Then you have to bring all this stuff inside. Anyway, but people help, so. Okay, so, so what is it? Forget. Listen. So the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali begins by saying, Atha Yoga Anushasanam. Here begins the practice of yoga. So then the next question is, then what is this yoga that we are going to practice? So Patanjali says, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Definition of yoga in the Patanjali's Yoga Sutras by Patanjali himself is Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. That means yoga is the nirodha of the vrittis of the chitta. Got? So what is chitta? What is nirodha? And what are the vrittis? We have to look into it one by one, little by little. Voice, yeah, that's what. Can somebody raise the voice a bit? All the volume. Sutradharas are all here. Now you can also hear an echo. Little less. Okay, right. So, Yogas Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Before we come into that, the definition, let me explain to you that the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali have 4 sections. The first section is not practice. Why I am saying this is people hurry up into practice. They don't know where they are going or what they are doing and why they are doing, but every morning they are doing something. They roll their eyes up until they become cross-eyed. They breathe so much that there are lung problems. But they don't know what they're doing. Why are they doing? Where are they going? Because somebody said so. No reason. So, Patanjali, therefore, very beautifully split his Yoga Sutras into 4 parts. First chapter, the first pada means chapter, pada means, the first is called Samadhi pada. Samadhi pada means, the understanding of Samadhi means, which is the goal. So without knowing the goal, is there any use of practice? You should know why. What is the goal? Generally stated, according to Patanjali, the goal is Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Now, how that is happening and what is the different states by which one gets there is called the Samadhi pada. Now, Samadhi is supposed to be the last aim of the yoga of Patanjali. So the Yama Niyamas are the beginning. We need to do that. Certain rules and regulations have been fixed. So Yama, Niyama, Asana, Pranayama, Pratyahara, Dharana, Dhyana, Ashta, 8 angas Samadhi. Right? But actually, we should call it Saptanga Yoga, because the Samadhi is not an anga, it is the culmination. The rest are all angas. But the popular name has stuck, Ashtanga. Now you see where Samadhi comes in the end. Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras is dealing with Samadhi in the beginning. Why? Because he wants you to know where you are heading. The ultimate Samadhi. That is the aim. Right? And different kinds of Samadhis are described. We will go step by step into each sloka, not all, but some, as we go along. So, it begins with a description of what is Samadhi. In general, the meaning of the word Samadhi is Samadhi. Dhi, Dhiyo Yona Prachoda. Dhi means my mind, my intelligence, my thought process, my thinking, my knowledge is Dhi. And Sama means where it becomes quiet, where my thinking, my Dhi becomes absolutely Sama, meaning quiet and tranquil. This is the literally meaning of the word Samadhi. But Samadhi has many stages described by Patanjali in the Samadhi Pada. Mainly one or two we have to look into. One is called the Savikalpa. We will go into that. Savikalpa, and the other is Nirvikalpa. Now, Savikalpa means in that state of mind which is very quiet and one is absorbed, the seeds of desire are still there, but they for the time being are submerged. You cannot realize, you can't see them active. It's nice and enjoyable. Why? Because it is desire that makes us tired. Actually, we might think the other way around. You really look at it, it is this desire that makes us tired. I want to desire something and the whole day I am worrying whether I can achieve it. Or my whole life. Now, therefore Samadhi means the quietness of the mind where temporarily at least there is no seed of desire there. I mean, it's all suppressed because I'm enjoying something beyond. This is Savikalpa. But when you say Savikalpa, the Vikalpa is there. The seed is there, but it's submerged for the time being. As you advanced, you reach a stage called Nirvikalpa. In Nirvikalpa, the seeds also have been washed off. So, in any form, in any desire, in any situation, the mind remains without vrittis. Or temporary vrittis are produced to deal with the situation and then taken off. This only an expert yogi can do. I'll tell you a little story because it's nice. You must be bored by now. There was the great sage Yajnavalkya. Yajnavalkya. And there was the great sage Janaka, who was the king of Videha, supposed to be Sita's father. The king of Videha was the king Janaka. He was called a Rajarishi because he was a king and also a rishi, and also because people think he is a king of rishis. That's also possible. Now, here is a good example. A king of Videha living in his palace and at the same time a great yogi. Which doesn't mean that if you live in the palace and if you are the prime minister, you are a great yogi. It doesn't mean that. Please. It simply means, or president or whoever. It simply means that even living there, he was a great yogi. That's what it means. A yogi can also live in a hut with nothing and still be a yogi. Okay. Now to this great Janaka, whose great guru was Yajnavalkya, the great rishi, who is so prominently seen in many Upanishads, including the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Now this Brihad Aranyaka is a big forest. Aranya means forest. Brihad means big. If you get into it, it's very difficult to come out of it. It's like those, what are those things in parks where you get in, go round and round and cannot get out? What are they called? It's not meant for everybody. I mean, you have to go carefully. Anyway, so the great sage Yajnavalkya, who happens to be the guru of Janaka generally, has taught him how to attain Samadhi. So Janaka knows how to attain Samadhi. One day, a great sage, whose name is Ashtavakra, arrives at the palace of Janaka. Of course, he is welcomed, his feet are washed and so on. In those days, all holy men, rishis, they all had to go through this torture of having their feet washed, even in winter, ice cold. Anyway, so they washed their feet and he is welcomed inside and made to sit down and so on. And then he asked Janaka asked him, "Sir, what can I do for you?" He says, "I have a question. What? Have you attained Samadhi?" "Yes, sir, I have." "So what happens?" "So I go into Samadhi. And in Samadhi I am free. Moksha. I am completely free. I see I am no longer Janaka, but the old," and so on. "Okay, 1 minute." "And then I come back." "You come back. Then I am Janaka." He said, "How is this possible? You just now said you are absolutely free. You are in moksha. So when you come back, you cannot become limited. You have to be unlimited. If you touch the unlimited, you are always unlimited. You cannot limit yourself after that. So, is there something other than Samadhi? Is there something beyond Samadhi? Samadhi is good, you are enjoying it, I agree with you," says here Ashtavakra. "But it must be something beyond that. That is called the Nirvikalpa. That is true moksha, where when one has reached, one need not go into any trance or go into Samadhi or come out of Samadhi, one is always in Samadhi. Please don't use it as an excuse. There are people who simply carry on with life and say, "I am always in Samadhi. Yeah, I just arranged the murder of my business partner, but I am in Samadhi." It is not possible. So anyway, so Nirvikalpa Samadhi is when even the seeds have been removed. And there is no going in and there is no coming out. One has understood that it is all settled. One can function in this world or in other worlds perfectly and better than the other person, normal person, and still be in Samadhi. This is Nirvikalpa. To give you a contemporary example, unfortunately not right now, there was the great Ramana Maharshi who lived in Tiruvannamalai. You will not see a single photo of his with his eyes closed. Show me one if you have. His eyes are always open. Why? There is no going in and there is no going out. It's all settled once for all. It's over. While talking, he hardly talked. I don't know why I am going on talking all my life. He just kept quiet. Didn't open his mouth. Sometimes he said a few words, but while that happened, he was not moved out of his spiritual state, and he didn't have to go into it. I would say that this is a stage of Nirvikalpa. There's another word for Nirvikalpa. Nirvikara, something. So, this is what we are going to study. Don't get frightened, don't get worried. We are going to look into this slowly, carefully, until one day you will all be sitting here and there will be nobody here. I will also be sitting there and we'll all be in Samadhi. Please do not dismiss it as impossible. It's very important. The moment you say, I cannot do it, you cannot do it. If you say, I can, yes, I can do it. It's possible. So, okay, so as I said, the first chapter, we will go into the first chapter, is Samadhi Pada. Yoga, chapter 1, Samadhi Pada. Then, I've given you a general description. Tomorrow or in the afternoon, we will go into the details. Then the next chapter, what is the next? This is the chapter which will be very interesting to you. Sadhana Pada, the practice. Sadhana Pada is the practice, the actual practices which have been given. Now, I know that many of you have come to listen to the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali, but some may have a secret desire for Kriya. Huh? It's not been put in the program because our good friend wanted to leave it, Shashi being the kind moon, wanted to leave it like, if you want you can do it, otherwise you don't have to, kind of thing. So, please tell me, put up your hand, how many people want to take Kriya? There are many people, and those who have already taken Kriya from me, maybe a couple of times, I was going to describe. There are also people who have taken Kriya from me and have practiced only on that day. They are also. So, I mean, maybe some have practiced, but more. So, in the course of the practice, in the course of doing the Yoga Sutras, I won't tell you today, tomorrow, but we will also introduce a little bit of Kriya for you all, at least to start with, okay? Rest assured, do. Now, that will also be a review for others. Now, the second chapter, Sadhana Pada of the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. I just want to start with the first sentence of that and then go on to the other things. The first sentence, starting, is tapasya, swadhyaya, tapas, swadhyaya, ishvara pranidhanani, Kriya Yoga. So, Patanjali himself in the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali describes his yoga as Kriya Yoga. So, Patanjali's yoga is Kriya Yoga, except that certain things have not been discussed because they are best done personally. Where do we first hear about the Kriya Yoga, or as a technique similar to Kriya Yoga? In two places. One is in the Yoga Upanishads. There is a text called the Yoga Upanishads. 22 Upanishads meant only for yoga, and they are not new. They are from the Krishna Yajurveda. This is the second Veda, pretty old Upanishads. They are called the Yoga Upanishads. There are in that Upanishads like Hamso Upanishad. The Hamsa technique that you learn in Kriya Yoga is already mentioned there, but it's also mentioned that the teacher should teach it to the student. That has been mentioned. And the Mandala Brahmana Upanishad, which shows how to fix your attention on the Ajna Chakra and so on. So it's already quite ancient. The next, you will hear it in the Gita. In the 6th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, which is known as Abhyasa Yoga, some people call it Dhyana Yoga, Abhyasa Yoga, Krishna teaches Arjuna how to meditate. Sit on a comfortable position, not too high, not too low, and so on. Keep your spine and head and neck erect. Fix your attention in the Bhrumadhya, here in that he says in the tip of the nose. and balance your prana and apana. This much has been mentioned. Beyond that, you can't, the battlefield of Kurukshetra, or if you really had taught, it has not been said. The next steps. So it's already there, it's mentioned, it's not as if it's new. Plus, Patanjali mentions it, his teachings as Kriya Yoga. Tapas, Swadhyaya, Ishvara Pranidhanani, Kriya Yoga. So this is the Kriya. Now, we want to expand on these chapters. We will do that one by one. I just want a general summary. It's going 5 minutes to 11. So the third chapter, Vibhuti Pada, may be of great interest to many people. Because Vibhuti Pada describes the extra sensory, extra supernormal developments that can happen to the mind when the yogi practices sadhana. They are called Vibhuti Yoga. But you also remember that in the Vibhuti Pada, Patanjali says, apart from Samadhi or moksha, some of these vibhutis can also be acquired through aushadha, which means chemically also. So when there is a chemical yogi, it's clear that he has not attained Samadhi. But he might have attained vibhutis. You get what I'm trying to say. But in pure practice of yoga, any introduction of a foreign substance into the bloodstream is anathema. But Patanjali, in course of discussing the Vibhuti Pada, says, through aushadha also it is possible to attain a heightened level of perception. That's what he means. But when people come and say, I'm practicing Kriya for so long, I don't see lights and so on, I tell them, look, no yogi can see as many lights as somebody who takes LSD. So that's not a criteria for spiritual development. There may be a yogi who sees no light at all. He might have been spiritually advanced. You cannot base it on what you see, stars glittering and things like that. Well, there are techniques by which you can see the stars glitter, but you will be stuck with the glittering stars, that's it. You will not become a star in the spiritual realm. I wanted to tell you a story, but it's 11 o'clock. When I come back, I'll tell you about this glittering star business, which I once went through. And then had to beg Babaji to clear me out of this. We'll come to that. So we have a break now. We'll come back in 10 minutes. And continue. So we have only touched upon Samadhi Pada, Sadhana Pada, and we just touched upon, I don't want to go too much into it, okay? Otherwise tomorrow's email will put, how do I project my astral body? So, and then the last one is Kaivalya Pada. That is the final. So we will go into that slowly. I hope you are enjoying this. That's why I break and crack jokes here.